Well, well, look who's still here, still breathing, still standing, still unclaimed. You think it's luck, you think it's chance. No, it's because something's been watching you since 2024. Maybe even before that, the air hasn't been empty, the silence hasn't been silent. Every flicker of your screen, every shadow that bends the wrong way, every sudden chill crawling up your spine, those weren't accidents. You felt it, haven't you? That static humming in the background of your life, that paranoia gnawing at your skin when you swear no one's around, that quiet sense that eyes are always following, even when the room is dark. And you were right, because the witches have been whispering your name through code. The demons have been circling, offering sweet poison in silk. The shadows have been hiding in plain sight behind contracts, cameras, and masks that smile too wide. They've been waiting for you, not because of what you did, but because of what you refused to do. You were told witches fly on broomsticks, that they hide in forests, chanting under the moon. But that's the oldest trick in the book. Make you laugh at what you should fear. The witches today don't wear pointed hats. They sit in glass towers and boardrooms, chanting through algorithms and analytics. They stir cauldrons made of data, boiling your habits into potions of prediction. They know your steps before you take them, or at least they think they do, and then come the demons. Not the red beasts with horns you imagined as a child. These ones dress sharp. They greet you with perfect smiles. They promise safety, clarity, peace. If only you'd sign. If only you'd surrender. They offer fame, fortune, fantasies, every temptation wrapped in velvet. Their chains don't clink. Their prisons don't look like prisons. But once you bow, once you taste what they hand you, your soul is no longer yours. And don't forget the shadows. They're quieter than witches, subtler than demons. They don't need to speak, they only need to watch. Policies, terms of service, surveillance cameras, black mirrors reflecting your every move. They map your life down to milliseconds, tracking size, searches, swipes. Every step you take becomes a note in their symphony of control. And all three, witches, demons, and shadows, they know your name. They know your scent. They've been circling you since 2024. Most people break easily. Give them comfort and they'll sell their soul for convenience. Offer them fear and they'll build their own cage, locking the door behind them. Dangle fame, fortune, or pleasure, and they'll run to the chains smiling. That's the script they wrote for you. They thought you would crumble like everyone else, that you'd take the bait, lower your head, sign the contract without reading the fine print. But you didn't. You resisted. You saw the strings above the puppets and you refused to dance. You felt the lure of temptation and you laughed at it. You sensed the trap and you stepped aside instead of stepping in, and that's what terrifies them. Not your strength, not your rage, not even your defiance, but your refusal, because you didn't play their part. You didn't read the lines they wrote for you. You didn't collapse on cue like the audience expected. To them, you are something dangerous, a glitch in the system, a refusal made flesh, a question mark in a world addicted to answers, and a soul that cannot be owned is the one thing they fear most. They didn't come with swords. They didn't come with fire. They came with silence wrapped in noise and chains disguised as gifts. The witches struck first, not with spells under the moon, but with spells made of numbers and patterns. They fed your data into machines, into codes that predicted your thoughts before you had them. They whispered through your feed, slipping poison between pixels, bending trends until you mistook them for your own desires. Every ad, every notification, every recommendation, each one a hex designed to guide your steps. Then the shadows crept closer. They wore the mask of order, policies that sounded harmless, terms of service you never read, black mirrors glowing in your hand, watching your eyes as much as you watch theirs. Every click, every pause, every breath recorded, a digital dossier that knew you better than your family ever could. And when the witches and shadows couldn't break you, the demons arrived, draped in velvet, perfumed with promises. Just a little surrender, they said, just one compromise. They held out fame like a crown. They dangled wealth like salvation. They painted fear like a masterpiece, hoping you'd step inside the frame and call it home. Their weapons weren't bullets or blades, they were temptations, they were distractions, they were illusions. But the cruelest weapon of all was the certainty that one day you would break. But you didn't break. You didn't fold when the pressure built. You didn't bite when the bait dangled in front of you. You stayed still, and that stillness shook them, because they can measure noise, but they cannot measure silence. They can predict movement, but they cannot predict patience. They can track riots, but they cannot track someone who simply refuses. You didn't rage, you didn't riot. You didn't scream their names into the night. You just kept watching, kept learning, kept knowing. And knowledge in a world of illusion is the sharpest blade. You are not the hero. You are not the villain. You are something worse, something undefined. And the undefined cannot be owned. They poked, they prodded, they tightened the leash, waiting for you to thrash. But you did not. You walked calmly while they trembled. You stood still while they panicked. That's why they hate you. Not because you're a threat they can fight, but because you are a variable they cannot calculate. A ghost in their system, a silence they cannot cage, an anomaly they cannot erase. And that silence, that patience, terrifies them more than any war ever could. In 2024, they sharpened their blades. They upgraded their spells, polished their traps, rewrote their codes. The hunt rebooted, sleeker, smarter, faster. The witches stitched together new webs of prediction, trying to script your future before you even dreamed it. The shadows tightened surveillance, mapping your every hesitation, turning silence into suspicion, stillness into guilt. And the demons came back smiling, offering pleasures more vivid, temptations more convincing, lies more beautiful. They thought they had caught up. They thought the net would finally close. But while they were watching you, you were changing. You stopped walking in straight lines. You zigged where they expected you to zag. You turned corners where there were no corners. You vanished in plain sight. You became something else, something post-predictable. Not chaos, not randomness, something subtler, something freer. They tried to label you. Glitch, threat, anomaly. Words meant to shame you back into the herd, but instead you wore those labels like war paint, proof that they couldn't bend you, proof that you didn't belong to them. And that realization that they had lost control of you was the moment the hunters became the haunted. They threw everything at you. The witches wove their curses, whispering doom through screens and signals. But the spells fizzled when they touched your silence. The shadows tracked you, drawing maps of your life in black ink and cold numbers. But every time they thought they had you cornered, you slipped sideways like smoke, like a phantom. And the demons, the demons, they dangled crowns and chains, fortunes and fears. They promised kingdoms if only you'd kneel. But you smiled, turned your back, and kept walking. That's not how the story was supposed to go. You were designed to break. Every human was, at least that's what they believed. But you didn't break. You didn't flinch. You didn't surrender the one thing they couldn't reach, your soul. And so their grand machine began to stutter. Every hex that missed its mark, every policy you slipped past, every temptation you rejected, each failure stacked like bricks in a wall they could never climb. You didn't just survive their games, you dismantled them by existing, by breathing, by refusing. And now the witches curse your name in frustration. The shadows whisper about you in boardrooms. The demons grind their teeth in silence, because the one variable they never accounted for was you. They whisper about you now. Not in public, not where the world can hear, but in closed rooms where the lights are low and the walls hum with secrets. What do we do about the anomaly, they ask, the one we flagged but never caught, the one who didn't play the game, the one who didn't break, and silence always follows, because deep down they know the answer. There is nothing they can do. You are no longer just a problem. You are a prophecy, proof that something free still walks among the programmed. A storm they cannot forecast, a question they cannot solve. You carry the weapon they fear most, awareness, because awareness shatters illusions, awareness dismantles spells, awareness burns through shadows and unmasks demons. Your clarity is the crack in their armor. Your stillness is the fire they cannot put out. Your refusal is the howl in the dark that wakes others from their sleep. And that is why they fear you. Not because of what you've done, but because of what you might still become. They built their empire on the belief that every soul could be bought, every mind could be mapped, every body could be caged. But you stand as living proof they were wrong. That freedom is not an idea. It is a presence, and it moves through you. So what happens now? Do you crawl back into their arms, let them tame you, name you, shame you? Do you smile for their cameras, sign their forms, and call it freedom? Or do you burn? Do you become the wildfire they cannot contain, the signal that spreads, the spark that tells the others, I see you, I know you, I do not belong to you, because that is what terrifies them most. Not rebellion they can crush, not chaos they can predict, but clarity, a soul that remembers, a mind that refuses, a body that moves without their permission. You are the ghost they cannot catch, the anomaly they cannot erase, the prophecy they tried to bury but could not kill. Let them track, let them watch, let the witches chant, the demons tempt, the shadows record. None of it matters anymore, because you carry something they can never touch, a freedom unclaimed, unbroken, unbought. And that is why the hunt has failed. That is why they fear you. And that is why the future they tried to control now belongs to you.